I really wish this keyboard was mine because Razer chose not to be confusing or mid with this Blackwidow V475%. I'm happy with my current keyboard, but the TLDR of this video is that Razer has a winner here. This Blackwidow 75 is sort of a return to form and really coming back with a vengeance. Razer's recent mouse lineup really hasn't struck a chord with me, and their keyboards before this one have been pretty quote-unquote safe so far. So this 75 board has some really nice features or some nice things going for it. When you look at it from the top, it reminds me of when the Huntsman TKLs first came out, but with other features that you would normally expect from the Blackwidow line. The 75 keys layout is somewhat new, but if you do check out boards from other manufacturers, it's nothing revolutionary. So the top plate is aluminum material that looks and feels very solid. It has a very smooth feel to it. On the upper right hand side, you'll see some media keys which are not something you would normally expect to see in a compact keyboard layout. The volume rocker has that textured feel, but I do wish the bumps for every movement up or down could be a bit smoother. It's just that the scrolling up or down action feels a bit or just slightly stiff. Now the keycaps are double shot ABS, which I wish were PBT instead. They do, however, have the look and feel of double shot PBTs. Running your fingers over each key gives back a very textured feel, which is, I suppose, something common to PBT material. Now, from limited use, it does seem like shine effects won't be too evident early on. I do have hands that can get a bit oily or moist in gameplay, so this material should be good. Now, only time will tell if the caps are good for preventing or holding off wear and tear. Taking out a cap with the included puller reveals the switches underneath. This board is using Razer's orange switches, which are a bit similar to cherry browns, which produce a tactile feel but quieter compared to clicky switches. Now, normally one of the things that hold me off on purchasing a board is if they don't offer a feeling similar to brown switches in general. I like having physical feedback of key downs, but less of the clicky noise, so these orange switches are great. Using the same puller also reveals that the switches underneath are hot swap format. This means that you can swap out any switches for as long as they follow standard designs. On Razer's website, they recommend any standard 3-pin or 5-pin format for replacements. It's natural they'd recommend their own switches, but I tested Gatoron Blues on some sockets, so I think that should work. Also, while leaving a switch socket open, it should reveal, I guess, that there is another layer between the top plate and the actual internals, although it may not be so obvious. It's a dampener to reduce the amount of noise generated when using the board. It's black in color, so like I said, it makes it a bit difficult to see. I have an older video for a Ducky 1.3 board with a similar dampening material, but Ducky chose yellow for the internal aesthetics. So basically, it's the same material that should help manage acoustics. Before jumping into the sound test, one more thing I want to mention about the top part is that this Blackwidow 75 comes with a magnetic wrist rest. It's a very plush material and extremely nice in terms of design. The design it produces a very subtle texture that feels great to the touch. It has a cloth-like feel to it that is just comfy for extended keyboard use. Razer makes sure that they let you know who's making the board, but it's not like other brands where the company name or logo is just basically screaming at you. So this wrist rest is great from an aesthetic and use perspective. And with that, let's get into the sound test. So this Blackwidow 75 sounds great. You get to feel your key downs, but will create a more subtle effect in terms of the acoustics. So moving on to the side reveals a chunky keyboard with a typical incline. Now I'm comparing it to other boards right now, and yes, it is relatively the same to, let's say, a Ducky 1.3. This Blackwidow's thickest side is about an inch thick, while the lowest part minus the wrist rest connection area is about 5/8 of an inch. The style is different, but roughly the same in terms of thickness. Now, of course, the Blackwidow is beefy if you decide to compare it to, let's say, a Logitech G915 or even a Lofree Flow 84. The design concept for these two other boards is different, so it's not a direct comparison, and using the wrist rest is mandatory for Razer's offering. Still on the side, and when turning on RGB, it produces a very nice glow effect, which is really a nice touch. I particularly like that implementation of RGB, whether it's in keyboards or mice. Now, some last bits on the sides. The top part reveals the connection type, which is USB-C, and that's just basically something standard. If interested, I've never used the default cable. You can use your own if you prefer. You'll see that part of the volume rocker is also exposed. And on the side nearest your wrist just reveals the Razer branding. Of course, that's not something you're going to see normally if you use the included wrist rest. The underside shares similar design with other Razer boards, at least from my memory. You have the Razer branding spread out, the solid aluminum finish with some screw points near the edges. You also, of course, see the board risers, which offer 2 additional height options. Now, I feel that maybe you don't need them given the thickness of the board and the included wrist rest, but that's something that's there based on your comfort needs. Now, lastly, along with the wrist rest, it also has some nice rubber feet that are pretty good in keeping the board steady. So there's basically no fear of it being out of place in case you get too excited when gaming. And I guess, yeah, that's pretty much it for the underside. In terms of software, you use Synapse. It's the central hub for all things Razer in your PC. It's in Synapse where you can change the different settings for your Blackwidow. Each key action can be set here, and you can also set the gaming mode, which one of the functions is to prevent the annoyance of accidentally pressing the Windows key, which disrupts your focus in-game. Now, the main tab also offers the option to change your polling rate. Now, here's the thing, and I'll be honest, I've never noticed any major difference or any difference at all when playing above 1,000. I don't know, I'm just a casual player, but when playing games that require faster reactions or actions, it never really made a difference. Now that's whether I'm in my days when my wrist or forearm pains bothered me or when on days when I feel great. There was no distinct difference. So I guess it's something to play around with, and it's an option if higher rates matter for you. I've read that rhythm games take advantage of higher polling rates, but I don't really know. Now, on the lighting tab is where you can set the RGB effects of your Razer board. So basically just play around with the Chroma Studio module, and it allows you to have different layers for each type of effect. So like I said at the beginning, yes, this is a really good board from Razer, and I still wish this was mine. I suppose it doesn't hurt as bad knowing that it'll be my son using it, but still. Anyway, this Blackwidow V4 75% is really a great offering from Razer. Yeah, the price can be a stinger, but I suppose it is premium enough to warrant it. I hope the company keeps this same mindset in terms of their design choices for other products. This Blackwidow 75 really pays attention to enthusiasts as well as really those people who are really just dedicated to gaming as a major hobby. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you soon.